Tonight on CFTK-TV, the Terrace Community Forest is granting $200,000 to the City of Terrace. Many are calling for the Canadian government to step in for the Canada Post strike, and why CTE cases are extremely high for hockey players.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, I'm Damian Smith, and thank you for joining us here on CFTK-TV. Well, the Terrace Community Forest is a city-owned company that contributes annually to the City of Terrace. And this year's sizable contribution will be put towards outdoor recreation and art projects. Here's CFTK-TV's Jaylee Matthews with more details.
The Terrace Community Forest is a private company owned by the City of Terrace and managed by an appointed board. The city isn't involved in the day-to-day of the company, and the company generates its own cash flow through its resources. The community forest land base covers 3 areas, with portions in the Kitimat Valley, Amesbury, Shames, and Deep Spring Creek. Revenue is generated from their commercial thinning and retention harvesting program, and revenue stays within the community. This year's annual contribution by the community forest to the City of Terrace is $200,000. Recent projects the TCF has contributed to include the new pickleball courts on Halliwell Avenue, the George Little Park playground expansion, and the new public art on Ferry Island, as well as the cricket fields in Thornhill. To date, the community forest has allocated $5 million to community projects. They also aim to create local employment opportunities and have created direct local employment valued at an estimated $30 million. The TCF has a commitment to being proactive in developing and implementing wildlife projects which benefit the local community, including stream fish work in Spring Creek, and other wildlife projects involving goshawks and local bat species are listed as being high priority. For CFTK TV News in Terrace, I'm Jaylee Matthews.
And the Terrace RCMP notified the public via release on their website that they received a report of a woman allegedly being assaulted late last week. And according to the report, the alleged incident occurred behind the Real Canadian Wholesale Club, with the woman claiming that a man with a red hat and a face tattoo alongside another woman attacked her. The RCMP are still investigating the allegations, and those with more information can call the Terrace Police at 250-638-7400. And moving on to the latest passenger stats from the Northwest Regional Airport show a slight decline in the month of November. YXT saw 18,770 passengers in the month of November, down from last year, as in November 2023 they welcomed over 21,000 passengers. Overall numbers are lower than they were in 2023, but higher than 2022. So far in 2024, the airport has carried over 245,000 passengers, surpassing 2022's entire year before the beginning of December. And once again, the District of Kitimat released a notification saying a local water quality advisory is active for similar reasons to the other times the advisory was activated. And the Kitimat River has elevated turbidity levels, and as a result, Northern Health recommends that young children, elderly people, pregnant women, and those with weaker immune systems to make sure that their water is boiled before consumption. And as of right now, there's no estimated time on when the advisory will be lifted. Well, the 14th edition of the Terrace RCMP's annual charity event, known as the Cram Cruiser Drive, is going to be happening very soon. The event will be taking place this upcoming Saturday on December 14th from 1 to 3 p.m. and will be spread out over multiple grocery store parking lots, namely Wholesale Club, Safeway, and Save On Foods. And all the non-perishable items that are brought down to the listed locations and stuffed in the cruisers by local residents will then be donated to a variety of local charities, including Kassan Place, the Terrace Church's Food Bank, and the Salvation Army. It was also noted that one of the charities that people and homes in need of assistance is up quite a bit this year, so it's likely that the drive would be happy to take just about anything that they can get. And after spending years in Canada, those fighting for permanent residency are now living outside as they look to live in Canada moving forward. This comes after an announcement a couple of weeks ago where Canada announced that they would implement stricter immigration laws. Here's Kamal Karamali of CTV News.
Shame. What you see here isn't just a protest. This has become a temporary home for those fighting for permanent residency, warmth, food, and even power provided here on day 100 of this encampment.
And in that time, support from the surrounding community has been growing. Donations pouring in, food, clothes, and even blankets, anything to keep them warm.
All of this for one common goal.
I want to stay in Canada.
Here, there are dozens of former international students. After graduating, they got their work permits, believing it was the next step to permanent residency. Many of them had essential roles during the COVID-19 lockdowns. Mahekdeep Singh worked at a grocery store. It helped support his family in India. At the time, they were called pandemic heroes.
At that time, Canada needed workers, and we were the one who stood.
Now he says they're being told to leave.
I need to stay here. I call it home. Maybe.
While Bikram Singh studied here to become a mechanic, his postgraduate work permit expired earlier this year. Now he's not allowed to work at all.
It's very scary. I have to take money from my friends. I have to take money from back home.
From September to the end of this year, there will be nearly 70,000 international graduates who will have their work permits expire. Next year, more than 130,000 postgraduate work permits will come to an end. While Canada announced a severe reduction in approving permanent residents, nearly 500,000 this year, aiming to cut it down by 25% over the next 3 years. All of it having a ripple effect on Canadian colleges dependent on international students.
You're seeing reductions in teaching, expansions in class sizes that inevitably are going to impact students.
While the federal government says it's responding to labor market needs, these former students say they were made a promise.
We came here for a good life.
One that is now going up in flames. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Brampton, Ontario.
And the 2-year-long Eras Tour just wrapped up this weekend in Vancouver for pop star Taylor Swift, where this tour brought in $282 million between Toronto and Vancouver. Here's Brianna Charlebois of the Canadian Press.
Vancouver's businesses and government agencies pulled out all the stops for Swifties.
Everywhere you go, you see stuff. Everyone's so excited.
Awesome. Yes. The city has gone above and beyond.
From the U.S.,
Fort Worth, Texas.
Washington, D.C.
Europe.
I love it here so much. It's so fun. Everyone's so nice.
And across Canada, here for the end of an historic tour spanning 5 continents and lasting nearly 2 years.
Just to be a part of everyone who, for the very last time, is seeing this tour is huge.
I'm so excited. I just cried.
Vancouver was awash in sequins all weekend, with the excitement reminding many of another time the city brought in thousands from around the world.
Very similar to the Olympics. Just a little more bracelets.
I've been making them over the last year.
Those bracelets aren't just a fashion statement, they're an instant path to friendship.
Thank you.
And camaraderie.
Never in my 51 years experienced something like this. You just walk around and everyone's so kind and friendly and helpful. Amazing movement. Amazing thing.
And above all, a chance to sing their hearts out.
This is our Super Bowl.
We do.
It's
huge.
With the world's biggest pop star who means so very much to her fans.
Coming up next, why CTE rates are so high among former professional hockey players. Welcome back. Well, a new report has identified that there has been an increase in CTE rates for former hockey players. And this is nothing new, but as Sarah Plowman from CTV News reports, you have to wonder if this is the start of a change.
To the hockey world, Bob Murdoch was a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, coach of the year, and a player. To his wife, he was her world, and in his years of decline, she was the caregiver.
It's like you're losing your loved one bit by bit over time.
Murdoch died in August 2023. His brain went to researchers who found the ex-NHLer suffered from Lewy body dementia, Alzheimer's, ALS, but also severe chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, a neurodegenerative disease caused by repeated head injuries.
Intuitively, I knew that it was CTE given Bob's history. Others would not even associate it with it.
With hockey comes contact.
To the head, it looked like.
Researchers now say the longer an athlete plays the sport, the greater likelihood they will develop CTE.
The odds for CTE increase by about 34% with each additional year played.
The largest study of its kind examined the brains of 77 former players, pros, high school players, and those in between. The research found CTE in more than half of the players, rising to 96% of the professional players, including 18 of the 19 NHLers.
This isn't something that's just affecting enforcers. This is affecting a fair amount of the hockey players that we studied.
The NHL has repeatedly disputed a link between hockey and CTE.
I mean, we'd certainly like the NHL to recognize the link between head impacts and CTE.
Murdoch's family was motivated to donate his brain to help with research, education, and awareness.
It was just like, here was my man, the love of my life dying around me, and I had to do something about it for the future.
Last month, the NHL Players Association announced an advisory committee to better understand CTE, a move praised by Bev Murdoch, who says the more awareness, the better. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
And turning to tonight's weather, the Prince Rupert area should have cloudy conditions with periods of rain beginning sometime near midnight, and there will be winds from the southeast at 20 kilometers per hour, except 40 over the coastal sections. The temperature should be steady near 4 degrees. The Terrace and Kitimat region should also have a cloudy night with winds from the northeast at 20 kilometers per hour and a low of 0 degrees. In the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District should also have cloudy conditions and a low of -7. And now onto your weekly weather forecast. The Prince Rupert and surrounding area will have cloudy and rainy days up until Saturday, where a partially sunny weekend will be in place, but with a drop in temperature, and the rainiest day should be on Thursday. The high will be on Wednesday at 8 degrees, and the low will be 0 degrees on Friday night, where there will be a 30% chance of flurries. And the Terrace and Kitimat region might have some flurries this week after about a week of rain. And similar to Prince Rupert, the weekend should clear up a bit, but we'll also see some colder days ahead. And the high will be 2 degrees on Wednesday throughout Friday, while the low will be -6 on Saturday night. And finally, the Bulkley Valley Lakes District of Notable will have some snow on Wednesday and Thursday. The high will be -1 on those days, with the low being -12 on Saturday night. And now onto your Northwest roadside report. Highway 16 has utility work on Haida Gwaii, dense fog east of Prince Rupert, bridge maintenance outside of Whitsett, construction west of Fort Fraser, utility work in Vanderhoof and slippery sections. Highway 37 has limited visibility from fog. The Moonlit Creek Rest area is closed due to flooding. Compact snow from north of Cranberry Junction and slippery sections. Highway 37A has compact snow throughout and ditching. Highway 118 has slippery sections. The Nishka Highway has limited visibility with fog throughout, and Telegraph Creek Road has slippery sections. Still to come, why the Canadian government may need to step in for the Canada Post strike. Welcome back. Well, we're now on to day number 25 of the Canada Post strike, and it still seems as though little progress has been made between both parties, and customers are caught in an awkward position, with many people now participating in the holiday season. As Sarah Plowman once again reports, many are calling on the government to step in.
The production line runs smoothly, just like the shave soap they sell. But some shipments are tangled up in the postal strike.
I hope they come to an agreement soon, because it really affects, especially this time of year where people are expecting things, they're ordering things online, they're less patient than ever.
4 weeks into the strike, and Canada Post and the Canadian Union of Postal Workers are still far apart. The union is going public.
Canada Post took steps backwards, increasing the need for part-time workers and getting rid of more full-time workers.
While Canada Post says it was surprised to hear the union's public comments and would have preferred to hear from CUPW through the confidential bargaining process.
Well, there's some gamesmanship on both sides here.
Caught in the middle are Canadians.
Unfortunately, this year I won't get to mail out cards.
And business owners.
Like there's a drop in sales, of course, and I'm still getting customers concerned about ordering online because they don't know if I'm able to ship or not.
She still has shipping options, but it's tricky, with some courier companies pausing shipments.
Yes, there are fewer options, and in some cases, not even like a viable option. Like the option will be like $100 to ship something.
Across the country, online orders are piling up or are stranded in the mail, and costs are mounting.
We need government to get involved and settle the strike today.
Some believe it might be necessary.
And I think it's increasingly clear that they're going to have to step in because there is no common ground between the two positions.
And for the time being, coffee prices will be slightly more expensive in both cafes and grocery stores, as one of the world's largest exporters has had its challenges with the weather. Paul Hollingsworth of CTV News has the rest of this story.
Coffee prices are climbing, and it's the last thing this customer wants to hear.
Price of fuel and everything today, we're just trying to wake up and get to work and get through, and everything's killing us.
A drought in Brazil has caused a dip in coffee bean production. Wildfires in Vietnam have also resulted in supply shortages. The result has elevated the cost of coffee to a 47-year high.
We are expecting cup prices to increase by a nickel, a dime, maybe 25 cents here and there. Those are the adjustments that we're expecting in a new year.
At this cafe, the owners are already shelling out more for bulk coffee.
We're trying not to pass that along right now to the customer.
But that may be a short-term reprieve.
The price of cups, the price of lids, the price of milk, everything's been going up. So when you put that all together with the coffee going up, it does have to eventually, unfortunately, go back to the customer.
At a time when everything is more expensive, increased coffee prices could mean customers will have to make tough choices when it comes to where they buy their coffee. For now, this high-volume coffee consumer will find a way to make it work.
It's a little cheaper than Starbucks.
If prices continue to climb, adjustments will be made.
I guess I'm making a lot more coffee at home because holy smokes.
It could be a major jolt and a wake-up call in a country that consumes millions of cups of coffee each day. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
And a nonprofit that was set up with the purpose of supporting small businesses in BC has now gone bankrupt. The website of the Canada-British Columbia Business Services Society, otherwise known as Small Business BC, said the group was placed into bankruptcy back on December 5th. And the website message said MNP Limited has been assigned as a bankruptcy trustee. Conservative MLA Gavin Dew said in a statement that the nonprofit's demise was unexpected and criticized the BC government for allowing it to get to that point, resulting in the layoffs of 36 staff members only a few weeks before Christmas. Now we take a look at our stock market. The Canadian dollar is up 0.3 of a penny. The price of gold is up $26.20. Oil is up $1.17. Natural gas is up 11 cents. Aluminum is down $66. In Toronto, the TSX is down 66 points. The Venture Index is up 4.53. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 240 and NASDAQ is down 123. Still ahead, a rebel coalition has now taken leadership in Syria while the country transitions from their long-standing president. Welcome back to our last segment. While a new administration looks to form as a new government, as Bashar al-Assad, who is now the former president of Syria, has fled to Russia. And since then, the rebel coalition has taken leadership for now as the country looks to transition from the half-century ruling of the al-Assad family. Here's Scott Hurst of CTV News.
In Syria's capital, Damascus, and across the country today, jubilation and gunfire as many Syrians celebrate the fall of the Assad regime. Long live Syria, down with Bashar al-Assad, said this rebel fighter. The end of the Assad family's half-century rule comes after a stunningly fast rebel advance reached the capital early Sunday. This victory is a new history for the region, says this leader of the largest rebel faction, a former al-Qaeda commander who's cut ties with the group and has promised a Syria for all.
It's the worst case, I think, that people are worried about, which would be squabbles among the groups that made this collapse happen.
The fall of Assad brings a sudden end to the more than decade-long civil war that left hundreds of thousands dead and the country's economy in shambles. President Assad is said to have fled the country, granted asylum in Russia. Syria's prime minister says he isn't going anywhere and has been in touch with the rebel coalition about forming a transitional governing body.
This really is putting a lot more strain in a region that is already under tremendous strain and fighting absolutely everywhere.
The West is reacting to the historic political shift in Syria. President Joe Biden says he'll help the country establish a stable, independent state.
We'll work with our partners and the stakeholders in Syria to help them seize an opportunity.
In a social media post, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Canada is monitoring the transition closely, adding the fall of Assad's dictatorship ends decades of brutal oppression.
And for our last story of the day, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is set to take place and head office in January. And Canada is assuring the public that high tariffs will not be in their plans when dealing with trade between the two countries. Colton Prale of CTV News has more in Ottawa.
Pierre Poilievre says his team is putting Canada first in the fight against Donald Trump's tariffs.
Every single Conservative would tell every single American that a tariff on Canada is a bad idea.
This weekend, Conservative MP Jamil Jivani met with Vice President-elect J.D. Vance in Washington. But Jivani didn't confirm if they talked tariffs at the dinner. In a statement writing, the Vice President-elect knows my views on these matters well. I've shared feedback from Canadian businesses and workers about the impact tariffs would have on our economy. Poilievre says he hasn't talked to anyone in the Trump administration on the issue.
And who are you reaching out to? I haven't.
This morning, Trump railed against his country's trade deficit with Canada, border security, and called tariffs a powerful political tool that he loved.
We're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico for almost $300 billion. We shouldn't be subsidizing. Why are we subsidizing these countries? If we're going to subsidize them, let them become a state.
The message in stark contrast to that of the outgoing Biden administration.
This is our #1 trading relationship in the world. It is a trading relationship that is the envy of the world. And the last thing you want to do is to put things in place that make it harder.
Meanwhile, new polling shows 63% of Canadians at least partially believe Trump's tariff threats.
Donald Trump operates in a disruptive manner. That's how he tries to gain the upper advantage when it comes to negotiations and stuff like this. The big issue here is uncertainty.
We're learning more about François Legault's meeting with Donald Trump in Paris yesterday. The Quebec Premier and U.S. President-elect talked tariffs and border issues. Meanwhile, Legault also met with Elon Musk to discuss U.S.-Canada trade and electric vehicles.
And that will be all for tonight's cast. Thank you very much for tuning in, and good night.